Alright, so it's time for John Doyle. Luckily, this time we have Kitty Cam, so hopefully it'll be a little more bearable, but John Doyle has a brand new video entitled, Why Beauty and the Beast is Implicitly Right-Wing. This should be interesting. So let's hear what he has to say.
At some point or another, you've probably seen the popular animated Disney film Beauty and the Beast, which was released about 30 years ago to tremendous praise from critics and audiences alike. And I'm not going to waste your time with a summary of the film because you've probably already seen it by now. And if not, you're definitely going to want to watch it after we get done because I am going to provide to you today a proper understanding of that story.
Oh, I'm very excited. Your media literacy is usually so good. Zarek Shadow 09 says, speaking of Animaniacs, I saw this video of the voice actors of Pinky and the Brain being interviewed, and they just kind of hit on the reporter interviewing them. Oh, God.
Here on the eyes of you, Brain.
We can watch that later for a cleanse.
And the first thing to kind of keep in mind before we get started is that how much time we spend with each of the characters, which perspectives we see them from, what we see them doing, what we don't see them doing, all of these things affect our perception of the story, who we sympathize with, who we're rooting for, etc. And Beauty and the Beast utilizes this quite well in order to push a radically feminist and destructive agenda that attacks masculinity, it attacks order, civilized society, strength, among many other things. There really just are so many important themes in this film that we have to discuss, and I get to do my favorite thing ever, which is
Color by Emmy with 50 bits says, I can't take my eyes off his hair horns. KF Logan, 1875. Thanks for raiding. Welcome, raiders. I'm Hannah. Right now we're looking at John Doyle's newest masterpiece of a video. This one is why he thinks Beauty and the Beast is an inherently right-wing film. So go check out KF Logan here on Twitch. Thanks, Halloween Town. There's a link in the chat.
Analyze something in a way that is in accordance with my worldview, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Do stay tuned.
Sorry, I was trying to read what the side of the car said.
John Doyle in. Heck off, commie.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off Commie. This will be the final video of the year, so Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. My birthday's on the 22nd, so remember, you have to be nice to me, but we've got big plans in
Happy birthday, John.
store for 2022, but I figured that this would be a good note to end the year on because it does outline a very practical political ideology for us going forward, which of course is Neo-Gastonism. And that's why it's been my Instagram bio for the last few months, and people are Googling it like, what's a Neo-Gastonist? Well, it's you, after you watch the video at least. So the background of this...
So, I kind of assumed this was going to be what was going to happen, but it appears that John is unironically going to side with the antagonist of Beauty and the Beast, the cartoonishly chauvinistic and evil Gaston, who literally has a song about what a big piece of shit he is and how much he thinks better of himself than he actually is. It's literally his villain song. And, John apparently identifies with that man. A man who is illiterate. Cool.
This is, I think it was last spring around Easter. I was with a young lady, and she wanted to watch a Disney movie. And so I'm like, all right, we'll pick one. We can watch it. So she's scrolling, and she's like, well, how about Beauty and the Beast? And, I had seen this a couple times back in my youth, and so I liked it well enough. And so I was like, yeah, that's fine. So we're watching it.
Their name Owl says, so I'm guessing John doesn't like reading books that don't have pictures. Checks out.
And then about 5 minutes into the film, the purported villain of the film appears on screen, Gaston. And keep in mind, I'm like tired, I'm falling asleep. I don't really even want to be watching this movie, so
John sounds like he's thrilling on a date. Princess Amelia says, I'd say John Doyle is a parody of himself, but I think he hit that point some time ago. Now I think he's a parody of himself. This is what I don't get. John Doyle doesn't want... At least according to what he says, he might just be a liar. John Doyle claims, he's a Christian, that he's abstinent until marriage, that he doesn't believe in masturbation, etc., etc. If he's bored on dates with women, what is he even doing? It's not even like he's there just to get laid, like a cynical asshole, right? Not that there's anything wrong with just hooking up with people. If you're both on the same page about that, that's totally cool, I don't care. The point I'm trying to make is, John clearly isn't enjoying spending time with this woman, so why is he there if it's not even to, hook up? He's just gonna sit and watch a Disney movie with her that he hates in the hopes that, what, he can trap her into a trad wife marriage? What the fuck?
But Gaston comes on screen.
He'd much rather be hanging out with his friend Nick Fuentes at their cabin.
And he immediately takes Belle's book from her and tells her that women shouldn't be reading books because then they might get ideas in their head. That woke me. I was like, for the rest of the movie, on the edge of my seat, just in awe.
Yeah, John, that's like the part of the movie where you go, oh, this is the bad guy. That's the part where you go, oh, he doesn't want women to have the right to, like, autonomy, to be able to enrich their lives with literature, to learn. Yeah. Also, he can't even read the book because he's so stupid, he asks, how do you read this book without any pictures? John identifies with this man. Okay.
Watching how base
Narnadia Owl says, I refuse to believe he actually goes on dates. He probably got stoned and watched the movie on his own. Ice Queen says, he's also a George Floyd conservative, which I don't get. I hate this punk. I need to wander off. Everyone have a great whatever it is for whenever you see this. And since I likely won't see you beforehand, happy holiday, live long and prosper, peace and long life, and... how do we know the girl wasn't his sister? I guess that's possible. He didn't say. The way he said it made it sound like it wasn't his sister, though. Normally... Excuse me, you wouldn't say, I just hung out with this girl. You would say, I was hanging out with my sister or my family. But John's weird, so I don't know.
Gaston is and how implicitly right-wing this whole story is. And this girl, she had to witness the most eccentric behavior. Eccentric, not autistic, eccentric behavior that she'd probably ever seen in her life. Like, she just wanted to watch a Disney movie, and I'm like over here taking notes on my phone, like connecting all of the themes to these really esoteric references and interpretations. And so, yeah, this is from where I formulated the political ideology of Neo-Gastonism. And it's important to remember that what we talked about in the beginning, how even with stories, our perceptions of them are often forced in order to manipulate certain outcomes that might influence our future perceptions or decisions. So anyone who watches this...
That was a really verbose and pretentious way to say stories have morals that are supposed to teach us about how to live our lives. You know, using bigger words doesn't necessarily make you sound smarter, right? Sometimes it just makes you sound like an asshole. Like, I get it. I can be verbose sometimes too, but it's not always necessary. It doesn't always make you sound smarter. When it's easier and simpler to convey the same idea with easier words, with smaller words, more concisely, normally you should do that. Maybe talk to the bard on brevity.
This film will easily identify Gaston as the antagonist. And this is done intentionally because the messaging of this film is actually deeply progressive. And that's the part I'm not joking about. Like, I'm going to overanalyze it for sport, but that part is actually true. And this is most obvious with the dynamic between Belle and Gaston, but also just in the fact that the audience is made to believe that Gaston is the villain of the story.
By authorial intent, he definitely is the antagonist of the story. Like, objectively, he is. Disney puts him in lineups of Disney villains. He is a villain, John.
And this is because this story is basically about this, like, miserable proto-feminist seeking to invert virtually every aspect of her reality, and because Gaston represents the natural...
She reads books and wants to actually fall in love. The horror. H. Baird says, are you perspicacious in your loquacity? I actually don't know loquacity, so I couldn't tell ya. I didn't have to take the SATs. I took the ACTs, and I don't think vocabulary was part of the ACTs, so... Hydrate.
And ideal state of man, and because they can't change that... Since
yeah, proto-feminist, a woman who reads. I think John just thinks women should be up in stirrups 24 hours a day, either gestating a child, being impregnated, or currently birthing a child, or recovering from birth. Those are the things women are allowed to do in John's brain.
Since we all recognize instinctively that it's true, they have to instead frame it such that our perception of it is different, so that we perceive him to be the villain of the story when an
John, he is literally the villain of the story. He is written intentionally as the villain of the story because he is evil. He is intentionally hurting our protagonist and doing things that are against the protagonist's free will. The protagonist, Belle, wishes to live her life independently, or at the very least enrich her life through literature, which she loves very much. That's very clear in the movie that literature is something that moves her, right? It's in the beginning song, Provincial Life, or whatever the name of the song is, and it's all about her wanting to get out and see the world, that she explores through the world of literature because she can't go anywhere and do anything on her own because she must stay and take care of her eccentric father. Gaston is a patriarchal, backwards, sort of regressive type who basically wants her to go in the kitchen, have a bunch of babies. He says as much when he proposes to her. She is implicitly disgusted by his attempts to come on to her and propose to her. He doesn't understand why, because like John Doyle, he has no idea what women are like or what other human beings think. She then goes out to find her father after he travels, gets trapped with the beast. They do their thing, they fall in love, whatever. Gaston, not wanting to be denied what he wants, a woman that he views as a physical sex object and an object that he can use to sire children, take care of his house, whatever, not seeing her as a person with agency, then tries to manipulate the situation into forcing her to be with him by having the townsfolk rile up into an angry mob to kill the beast and deem her father insane, throw him into an insane asylum, thus giving her no other avenue for survival other than to marry Gaston. He is literally a fucking psychopath who wants to manipulate an entire French province into doing his bidding so he can fuck a woman who is disgusted by him. And John views this man as a hero. Joey is strong with 200 bits, says he's stealing Jordan Peterson's shtick. Meek says, being masculine is when you blackmail a woman to marry you.
Actuality, Gaston is the true protagonist of the story. He's the true hero of Beauty and the Beast. And so we have Neo-Gastonism, which is a very simple ideology inspired by the actions of Gaston throughout the story. And it has 3 tenets. Number 1, women aren't allowed to read. Number 2, eat lots of eggs. And number 3, beat the shit out of furries. It's simple, yet effective. So that's my...
A furry killed the shit out of Gaston, so... Just saying.
Political platform. I'm a Neo-Gastonist. We've restocked the merch store for the end of the year with a few new designs, one of which, of course, being inspired by the political ideology of the future, which promotes traditional gender roles, an early form of raw egg nationalism, and, of course, war against degenerate sexual behavior. And this is, of course, Neo-Gas.
It's interesting to me that John's strategy appears to be hiding his shitty arguments and opinions behind 7 layers of Zoomer humor. It's like he thinks that an appropriate... Instead of actually making good points, he just shit posts and assumes that's good enough. And the worst part is, his audience is stupid enough that he's right. It's a bummer. Fascists are real fucking dumb. Can I link the video? Yes, here you go. You could probably report the beating the shit out of furries thing if you wanted. I'm not gonna, but, you know, I'm not your mom. iMiracle165, thanks for 5 months, says, hi everyone. Hello. Thanks for subscribing for 5 months.
Cynicism. So go check out the new designs. Late Christmas present idea, maybe. We've also got a white boy winter design that should be up there by now. It's a white boy skiing and kicking up snow onto George Floyd, who's stuck in a snowman. So you're definitely going to want to check that out.
Classy.
But anyways, I am going to give a summary of what the story is actually about, and then we'll go through and analyze the whole thing. So basically, when you view this story objectively, it becomes very clear.
I actually appreciate, I agree, Nearest Crowhill, I agree. John Doyle fans there should be a law that mandates them to wear John Doyle merchandise at all times, so everyone can give them a very wide berth, so people don't bother wasting their time and energy interacting with these people. I would tend to agree.
Clear that the true antagonist of the film is actually Belle, who's manifested some form of pathological narcissistic personality disorder.
So in his mind, Gaston is a selfless hero, even though he gaslights everyone into going along with his homicidal rape plan. But Belle is a narcissist for wanting to live a life independently, find love, and be literate. I think that says a lot about what John thinks, right? If anyone else cares to have their own agency, especially women, they're narcissists. The only way to truly be a good person is to bow down to the whims of John Doyle, which of course explains his fascism. John probably is a narcissist. Stephen J. Neptune Man says, John is always either apathetic or downright hostile towards women, yet he still wants a wife. He seems more enthusiastic about hanging out with the boys. Yeah. There was an interesting, I don't remember who said it, but it was an interesting article that basically said that men like John, they might be heterosexual, but they're definitely homoromantic. And what they meant by that was basically that people like John Doyle are incapable of actually loving women as human beings because they do not view women as human beings, so they are incapable of sharing love with another person who happens to be a woman because they inherently don't respect them or even like them. So John Doyle, well, he may someday get married and have a kid, and I'm sure he's probably attracted to women, he isn't romantically interested in them. He's interested in their utility for him sexually and reproductively, and in a, like, trad wife, take care of my house kind of way. I imagine when he loves someone, it's his other fashy friends, like Nick Fuentes. That's the only way he knows how to love, because he only respects other men who share his views. It's very strange.
Plain and simple. And the Beast actually serves as this supplementary character, the sort of tragic anti-hero to highlight one half of Belle's nature, which is the beast of her chaotic feminine nature.
Has he been reading Jordan Peterson recently? No, he's the love interest, you idiot. He could be considered a foil to Gaston in the sense that Gaston and Beast start off as these really awful people who both mistreat Belle. And let me just say that the plot of Beauty and the Beast in and of itself is problematic. I know some people hate that word. Problematic in the sense that if you look at the story in a certain way, it's basically about someone learning to love their abuser and someone who has captured them. But again, I don't think that's the authorial intent necessarily, at least of the Disney version specifically, but these days it kind of comes off like that. The intent is to show that Beast was capable of growth, to becoming a better person, to learning his faults and understanding to respect and love Belle, whereas Gaston was never able to have that personal growth. He is a stagnant individual, much like John Doyle, who is going to do nothing but hurt others in order to try and stop himself from learning as the world moves on without him. Gaston is a prototypical reactionary. Belle is, I guess in some ways, a feminist in the sense that compared to her village, she wants to do more than the other women there. She wants to read, she wants to explore the world, she wants to, better herself as a human being individually before getting into a relationship. Gaston, being a reactionary, sees this, and instead of accepting that other people have different wants that are different from both his preconceived notions of what they might want, but what society might see as their wants and needs, instead of accepting that and allowing other people to grow in ways that he didn't expect, he says, no, you're not allowed to do that. I am going to move heaven and earth in order to stop you from being able to do things that I view as immoral within my own limited, backwards framework. That was a lot of words for what I was trying to say, but I think you understand. In many ways, Gaston is a prototypical reactionary, much like John Doyle. So I understand why he identifies with this character. However, I don't understand how he's unable to recognize that identifying with this character is a bad thing, and in fact, not an indication that Gaston is the good guy. Narnindi Owl with 45-bit says they want women and kids for status, nothing else. Like my dad, yes. Vault 319 says, I highly suggest Cinema Therapy's video on Beauty and the Beast. Okay.
Left unchecked. And so the true protagonist of the story is actually Gaston, who represents the beauty that Belle could experience if she were subject to the natural order of things under Gaston's authority. And so the title, Beauty...
It's interesting to me that he says that he believes that Gaston's view of the world is the natural view of the world, and it can't be that Gaston's view of the world is informed by something negative. Gaston cannot just be backwards and limited in his worldview. It must be that Gaston's worldview is the naturalistic one. Why would that be the case, John? Justify that outside of the fact that you already view hierarchical systems that put women down and don't allow them to have agency as natural. Justify that position.
Beauty and the Beast, properly understood, is not the beauty of Belle and the beastly nature of the prince who's under a spell, but rather the two directions in which Belle's energy can be channeled.
I know he's not going for authorial intent here, and let me be clear, I don't have a problem with that. You don't have to give a shit about authorial intent when you're doing an analyzation of any text, whether it be a book or a movie or whatever. In fact, I find it much more interesting to completely divorce yourself from what the intent of the text was and just look at it as its own thing and try and derive your own meaning from it. I think that's what makes literature and film and any kind of media special. That the reader can decipher their own meaning from something. However, I also have the right to make fun of John for having such a dog shit stupid take on a Disney film. Which I'll do. So.
Through a weak and insecure man who will allow her to become a destructive beast, mirroring his nature as a literal beast, or through a strong and capable man.
In what way is Belle being destructive? By reading books?
Who will allow...
It's funny, too, because literally every other way, Belle is a pretty typical, traditionally feminine character, right? Belle is, I mean, it's right in the name. Belle is literally like French for beauty. Her name is Beauty. She is a traditionally beautiful feminine woman who wears poofy, cute dresses, sings, like, goes to the bakery, like, and gets little bread rolls for her dad. In every way, she's a trad wife, basically, except for the fact that she has opinions and reads books. And these things are unacceptable and destructive to John. It's really, really depressing that John views the world this way. Not depressing for anyone else, necessarily, unless he actually manages to trick someone into spending time with him who happens to be a woman. But depressing for him. What a shallow, empty life he's going to live. That's really sad.
Allow her to become a happy and beautiful wife and mother, mirroring his nature as a beautiful man who has fulfilled his proper role in society.
Oh, John thinks Gaston is beautiful. Interesting.
But of course, we are made to believe that Gaston is the antagonist of the story because this
He
film,
is.
broadly speaking, is feminist propaganda, which we will get into momentarily along with so much more. But even this is subtly acknowledged during the film's best sequence, the most famous sequence in the film, which is the ballroom dancing sequence with the film's main theme playing in the background. And it sings of a tale as old as time, Beauty and the Beast. And we hear this and we think, oh, it must be the Beauty and the Beast that we can see on the screen, but it's not.
It is, again, in intent it is, but go on with your interpretation. Ashy Boo says, is John going to actually try to find a trad wife who doesn't read? Good luck. Even Caitlin Bennett reads. Narnandia Owl with 45-bit says, practically the only thing setting her apart from a typical Disney princess is that she's not a princess or other royalty by birth. Yeah, and then she becomes one at the end of the movie. When she marries the beast, so... Literally, she wears, like, pretty dresses in the movie. Like, what? She's incredibly, like, traditionally feminine. It's so weird. John's thing about this is literally, she doesn't want to fuck Gaston, and she reads books.
The film is inviting us to read between the lines. Mrs. Potts is warning us. Think about it. A tale as old as time. This is in reference to the beginning of male-female relationships along with time itself, which of course would bring us back to Genesis and the Garden of Eden. And what do we learn from that story? That the woman's nature, if left unchecked...
What would John Doyle's takeaway be from The Handmaid's Tale? Probably he'd be like, I just saw A Handmaid's Tale and it was horrifying. I can't imagine how scary it is to think that this utopian vision will never come true because of all these communist Democrats in the real world. Full disclosure, I stole that joke from a tweet, but it was targeted at, I think, Charlie Kirk instead of John Doyle.
Checked by strong male authority will lead towards chaos and evil. She is predisposed towards this at an accelerated rate relative to men. And Gaston understands this. He was a hero and a great man who was trying to do right by his people, and yet...
No?
The narrative frames him as though he is the villain. And
because he's the villain.
We will explain how he tried to save Belle and his town momentarily, but first, ladies and gentlemen, there are three trends occurring simultaneously right now. More and more of you are electing to exercise your Second Amendment rights by arming yourselves.
Let's skip the ad.
every holster a lifetime guarantee. If it's not a perfect fit, send it back for a full refund. We the People holsters.
H. Baird says, is there a Beauty and the Beast sequel where the French Revolution happens, suddenly Belle becomes a noble? Doesn't seem such a good idea. No, I'm pretty sure those are pretty separate events time-wise. Like, Belle, I'm pretty sure, is living in, obviously it's like fantasy Disney France, so it doesn't matter anyway. But it's like much earlier France than French Revolution France. Honestly, I imagine it's earlier France than even like France as we see in Hunchback of Notre Dame, and no one be like, in the background of Hunchback of Notre Dame you can see Belle. I know, it's just a reference. It's fine. The sequel is about a gay pipe organ. Yeah, it is. Tim Curry plays the pipe organ. Hello. Hi. John Doyle loves Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I've never seen it.
And oh yeah, I can't even make jokes. Shit, we should watch Beauty and the Beast sometime. He likes the villain of Beauty and the Beast because he basically wants to assault Belle and stop her from being able to read.
That seems about like John.
Yeah.
.com/Doyle, wethepeopleholsters.com/Doyle. Very epic, but we continue. So, we're going to go through the whole synopsis of the film right now so that I can prove...
He's good. Just taking a little nap.
Hi, baby. Hi. Did you miss your mama? Yeah. Oh, big yawn. So cute. I heard you were such a good boy and you used your litter box. Sorry, you can play that. I won't talk anymore.
To you that the essence of the film is in fact a revolutionary leftist essence. What it seeks to do is promote the complete inversion.
I'm sure the multi-billion-dollar Walt Disney Corporation in the 90s was very intent on telling a leftist message.
Of reality.
Also, feminism isn't inherently leftist, you dumb asshole.
Is something that makes people happy, something to be celebrated. Woman above...
Like, liberals are also often feminist.
Man, chaos above order, weakness above strength, etc. And if you're trying to recall the story, you might think it's basically about Belle.
Yes, I remember those suffragettes back in the day with their sashes that said, weakness above strength, let us vote.
The Beast, and then this Gaston guy keeps butting in, but it's actually more intricate than that. Because when we first meet Belle, she's lost. And this is because she has no male influence in her life to guide her.
John, Belle is upset because the town that she lives in doesn't understand her. John, she's upset because people like Gaston continually come into her life and tell her to be something other than what she is, which is someone who likes to read and wants to explore the world. She doesn't have a problem. Her town does.
Her father's weak, he's old.
Which, by the way, they also learn a lesson through the movie. Again, watch the movie again.
Which is why that relationship is established before the interactions with Gaston and the Beast even become larger parts of the story, because from the...
And yes, she has a loving relationship with her father in the movie as well.
Beginning. The whole story is about Belle desperately needing masculine guidance, and Gaston and the Beast are basically competing to occupy that influence in her life, but for very different reasons, as we'll explain. But remember,
Gaston doesn't want to be a masculine influence on her life. He just wants to own her.
As we said earlier, this is indicated by the title. Beauty and the Beast are both within Belle, and the struggle in the story is between the two competing forces which will decide which one will embody her essence. Will it be a strong, capable, charismatic, and therefore beautiful man to bring out her beauty, or will it be an insecure, pathetic, hideous beast, like literal creature, that will fail to control her, which will leave her miserable?
Fail to control her? John missed the entire message of the movie. Literally, Beast's lesson is to stop trying to control people and being a psychotic abuser. Like, what?
Because as we're...
John unironically seems to believe in, like, freedom is slavery rhetoric. Like, does he literally believe that Belle would be happier? I know she's a fictional character. I'm just talking hypothetically here. Does he believe Belle would be happy if Gaston, again, successfully gaslighted the town, killed the Beast, whom she loved, and then forced her to marry him, effectively raping her, causing her to be trapped with him for eternity, not allowed to read books, not allowed to go anywhere, only take care of him and have children, effectively a slave and a sex slave. And John thinks, she'll be happy. This is psychotic. This isn't even just fascist. This is fucking psychotic thinking on John's part. If he genuinely believes this, he needs a CAT scan. Meek says in his previous video, he literally says that freedom is slavery. You're right, he did, didn't he?
Reminded throughout the whole story, Belle doesn't know what she wants. She has no idea. She doesn't know what...
She does, actually, John. Watch the movie. She does. The problem is not... The conflict in Beauty and the Beast in regard to Belle's wishes is not a, like, if we're talking in literary terms, it's not a man versus self, right? She's not looking at herself and saying, what do I want in life? She literally has a song at the beginning of the movie where, you know, you've seen it in the trailers, or if you've seen the movie, she's in the blue dress and she's like, in that field. It's called an I Want song in Disney movies. They're in a lot of them. Ariel also has one in The Little Mermaid, the one where she's in that cave and talking about how she wants to be on the surface. Belle has a song about how she wants to leave this small town and go and find adventure. I want adventure in the great white nowhere, whatever the lyrics are. She knows what she wants. The story is not about woman versus self. It's about woman versus society, and then later, like, woman versus man in terms of her relations with the Beast and trying to get him to stop being an asshole. The conflict is not about her not knowing what she wants. The conflict is society telling her that what she wants is not okay, and them coming around to realize that she's not hurting anyone by doing what she wants. Then the other conflict is the Beast learning that he needs to be a better person, and then another conflict is them dealing with the town and Gaston teaming up in order to kill the Beast. Belle doesn't really grow and change a ton through the story. She's basically the same character at the beginning as she is at the end. The only difference is those around her are no longer trying to put her in a box of what they believe she should be. They're just letting her be who she's been since the beginning of the movie. The people who change are the Beast, the town, Gaston dies. Those are the things that change in the plot of the story. Again, I'm fine with stepping outside of the bounds of authorial intent, but your actual analysis of the text should make sense and actually have something to do with what happens in the text.
What's going to make her happy. So naturally, when she makes decisions, they basically like blow up in her face. But yeah, that's the story. So it starts out by describing how exactly...
This, by the way, is why the story starts with a monologue about what happened to the Beast. Because even though Belle is the protagonist, this is an interesting story in that usually the protagonist is the character that transforms throughout the story. Traditionally in stories, that's what happens if we're talking about like a hero's journey thing, right? Love you.
I love you.
The protagonist will go on some sort of journey. I'm sure you all took basic middle school or high school literature English, so you probably understand where I'm going with this. Normally, the protagonist will go through all this journey, learn something about themselves, return changed in some way. Sometimes, though, you have a story where the protagonist is your point of view character, or at the very least, you have a separate point of view character that is the main character, separate from the protagonist that actually changes throughout the story. So Belle is the POV character. In some ways, she is the protagonist in that she has goals that she wants to get to and succeeds in getting those goals. But the character that actually undergoes change within the story is the Beast, which is why the movie begins with the story of how he became a beast, because the entire story is about his change. Zarek Shadow 09 says, it's probably because we watched Styx before, but I feel like John resembles Styx. This got me thinking, what if we're in some shitty multiverse, but instead of having multiple spider people, we have multiple versions of the same fascist dipshit Styx, John Razorfist? That would be unfortunate. Archangel, thanks for 14 months.
Exactly the Beast came to be. And basically what happened was this poor ugly old woman came to his castle asking for shelter from a storm, and she told him that she could offer him a rose. And the Beast, who at the time was a prince, said no because she was ugly and poor. And at first you might think that this is based because she had poor physiognomy, but it was...
Again, physiognomy is literally like a Nazi fascist, like, white nationalist talking point.
It was actually proto-Coomerism, because then the woman transforms back into her natural form as a beautiful princess, and the prince immediately starts simping for her. So it wasn't a rejection of her because he inferred from her poor physiognomy that she would have poor character, but rather that he couldn't just like lust after her. And then when he realized that she was actually a beautiful...
Yeah, no, that's not what happened. It's because she was a witch. It wasn't just because she was beautiful. It's because she turned into her witchy, like, enchantress self. And then he was like, oh shit, please don't punish me. He wasn't S-wording. He was literally trying to beg for his life. Again, missing literally just the plot. He doesn't understand the plot of the movie. Interpretations of plot can be different, but you can't just change plot points so it better fits what you want your interpretation to be. Hats off. Okay, gotta switch my accessory. What am I doing now? We're talking about Beauty and the Beast. We'll go with the monster horns. Ow. Meek says, by his own logic, doesn't John have poor physiognomy? He's not stereotypically masculine. I'm not getting into it. I'm just not. I don't talk about people's looks. I'm not dog shit like John.
Princess.
How do I know she's a witch? The movie says it. The movie literally says she's an enchantress, and she casts a spell on him, and in this picture that is on screen right now, she is holding a magic wand that she is pointing at her head and casting a magic spell.
Began simping. And the princess realized that he was this pathetic coomer, and so she punished him by turning him into a furry, which is like an advanced stage of sexual degeneracy. And the only way that he can break this...
Where's Daddy Sume?
Spell and return to normal is if he falls in love with a woman who also is in love with him within a certain amount of time. And if he can't do that, he's going to stay that way forever. And so he starts throwing these temper tantrums and like gets depressed about it and just stays inside the castle. And I will say it's hard for me not to think that the Beast is subtly based, because he's basically like an autistic incel. But throughout the film, you'll see that this is just a distraction designed to make people like us sympathize with him, think he's a...
I guarantee you, John, no one who was writing Beauty and the Beast for Disney thought about you.
Sigma male.
You weren't even alive yet. Weren't you born in the year 2000 or 1999 or something? Stone Corbell says, this is so tiresome. He's just memeing at this point. I know. It's what he does. Anadon Earhart says, I'll step in for Daddy. Furify me, please.
Or whatever, when in reality, he's just pathetic. And this is a fantastic example of the difference between the Beast, who we're supposed to believe is the hero, and Gaston, who we're supposed to believe is the villain, because both embody a position of power, but they treat it differently. It's a perfect illustration of what weakness and strength look like when they have power. The Beast acts as a tyrant, whereas Gaston acts as a noble aristocrat.
Gaston in no way acts like a noble or an aristocrat. What are you talking about? He acts like a strongman asshole who hunts in the woods and thinks he's hot shit because of it, and that every woman should be slobbering over his dick because of it. That's not noble. What? And yes, the Beast acts like a tyrant, which is literally his arc, is to make him not that. That's the point of the movie. Again, you need to address the actual plot points in the movie in your analysis, not just pretend certain plot points don't exist in order to fit the narrative you would like to tell in your shitty YouTube video.
And we see this here when the prince acts selfishly by rejecting the lower class woman from the castle during the storm unless she could satisfy his degenerate sexual desires, whereas a
I'm pretty sure Beast is like 12 years old in that story. So I don't know if 12-year-old Beast was concerned about degenerate sexual desires. Nick says, ooh, Jawan Doyle is lovey-wovey with Gaston. Nya. Jesus Christ, people.
Noble aristocrat would feel an obligation towards the lower classes and would help them out. Like Gaston, for example. Gaston is nice to his dysgenic manlet friends. In fact, he's basically his sidekick.
Never, I guess.
But even when the Beast is a prince, he's a tyrant. And then when he's cursed, he still abuses those around him to where they cower in fear when he's present. And again, this is the difference between weakness and strength when they have power. But anyways, then we're introduced to Belle. She's leaving her house in rural France in this village. It takes place between the mid-1700s, mid-1800s, by the way, which is important because she has no mother figure present. Her father figure is weak. So basically, the people who were supposed to...
Her father figure is an inventor who's very, very smart and a funny guy. Is it because he's short and fat? Probably. John's into physiognomy. He only likes hot, rippling men with abs.
To introduce her to the world.
Which is very straight.
Help her understand how it works, what her role is. They've failed to do that, and so she feels displaced. She's singing about how there must be something more than this provincial life, and she sings this after walking through her village, watching the community interact with one another. They're
interacting by shit-talking her because she reads books.
About each other's families, watching a mother cradle several beautiful children, etc. And she...
Yeah, she looks like she's having a great time.
She's on her way to the bookstore because since she has no sense of identity because of the failure of her parents, she has to retreat into books to derive her sense of identity. And she's on her...
Or she likes to read. John, again, in the sense of ignoring plot points, if you actually watch the movie, she clearly has a very strong relationship with her dad. She loves him very much, and they clearly get along and interact with each other, and he had a positive influence on her life. That's not bad. Books are not evil, John. I don't know if you know this.
Way, and the villagers are singing, you know, that girl's so peculiar, she's not like other girls. Yeah, because she rejects her role in the village. Everybody in the village has a job. They're all unseparated.
And her job is to suck Gaston dry.
Separated from the products of their labor, but not Belle. No, she feels entitled to more than that.
Yeah, that's the appropriate face for that comment.
There must be something more, but she doesn't work. She doesn't work towards that. She doesn't work towards that something more. She just lives in fantasy about it. She's a single, young woman with no obvious skill set. Anything that could bring her...
She's literate in the 1700s. That's a pretty good skill set, I'd argue.
More, a job, motherhood, marriage to literally the most admired man in the village.
Who is an asshole and doesn't respect her as a human being. Oh joy, what a beautiful life.
She just rolls her eyes at that. She's entitled. She doesn't know what she wants. And the only cure...
She knows what she wants. To not be in this tiny, podunk fucking village that doesn't respect her intelligence.
Cure to this is...
Which she gets by the end of the movie.
Strong...
Again, watch the movie, Chud.
Male influence, which she has lacked for her entire life, which is why she's like this. This is why, to reiterate, Belle is the true antagonist of this story. Beauty properly understood.
Didn't Belle sacrifice herself to free her father? Yes, she did. Her father gets kidnapped by the Beast because the father trespasses in the Beast castle. Belle goes to get him and says, like, let my father go and you can keep me. And they switch places and Belle gets trapped in the castle, and that's basically the beginning of Act 2, I think, where we then have the interactions between Belle and the Beast, and he's an asshole at first, and then that spurs change in him, etc., etc. Wagrode says, the Beast was 11 when he was cursed. He was arguably punished for making a fairly reasonable decision of turning away the stranger. Yeah, that's a plot, like, thing that always was weird to me. It's like, the Beast was punished for being an 11-year-old who didn't want to let a stranger into his house. Like, what?
Is her appearance, and the Beast is her nature. Or beauty is Gaston, and the Beast is the prince. The true conflict is the weak nature of the Beast versus the strong nature of Gaston. But anyways, she goes on to sing, here's where she meets Prince Charming, but she won't discover that it's him until chapter 3. And this is actually foreshadowing. This is foreshadowing and meta-commentary on the story itself, and the average viewer will understand this foreshadowing as...
Yeah, it's about the Beast. Because the Beast is a prince. He's a diamond in the rough, so to speak, to steal something from another Disney movie. He's the prince that is hidden. That's the foreshadowing. He's gonna say it's Gaston, isn't he? He's gonna say it's Gaston. Freaking Out 99 says, Gaston would not be interested in Belle if she was interested in him. His obsession with her is there not because she's beautiful, but because she is the one person in his life who doesn't fawn over him. Yeah, that's probably true as well.
As when she meets the Beast, but she doesn't realize that he's actually Prince Charming until chapter 3, or Act 3, the final part of the story, when the Beast is revealed to her to be a prince. But even then, he's not Prince Charming, right? In fact, the whole second act of the story is centered around him being very awkward and uncharismatic.
Right. But he learns to be and be more comfortable around Belle. You know, she doesn't find out it's him till chapter 3. Like the third act of the movie when Beast actually gets his shit together. They're literally referencing the acts of the fucking movie. I hate this man. I really do.
But who does she meet immediately after this song? Who is the next person she speaks to? Gaston. And perhaps it is Gaston who she realizes is the true Prince Charming in the third act when he
No. Beast protects them all from Gaston because he's a psychotic fucking narcissistic murder machine. And he falls to his death. And I'm glad he's dead.
sacrifices his life trying to save
He didn't sacrifice anything. He wanted a fuck doll. He wanted to get her so he could fuck her.
her. Not even from the beast, but from herself. And she realizes in that moment the gravity of her decisions and that maybe she should have stopped being so dramatic. And in fact, I will be making the argument that her entire voluntary captivity in the beast's castle was just one giant shit test for Gaston. But anyways, here's where she meets Gaston.
Sorry, my headphone keeps detecting and then undetecting that it's in my ear and pausing things. One sec. Better.
He's hunting. He's with his dysgenic manlet friend, his sidekick. And Gaston correctly figures that since he's clearly the best male in town, he deserves Belle because she's...
John, if she doesn't like him, then he's not the best male in town to her. On what metric are you measuring that he is the best male in town? If she doesn't like him, she doesn't like him. There is no objective best male or best female in any given situation.
He's the most beautiful girl in town, and Gaston, by the way, is desired by virtually every woman in town, but his eyes are only on Belle, and so he greets her, and he takes her book, and he asks, how can you read this? There isn't any pictures. And she says, well, some people use their imagination, and this is the essence of Gaston. He values the objective, what he
The joke is that he's illiterate, John.
Can see, what he knows is true and real.
Ah, yes. Things that are true and real, like pictures in picture books? This is the shittiest film analysis I've seen since the last Doug Walker video I watched.
Belle, a narcissist, only values what serves herself. Like, sure, these words are nice, but only because I get to decide what picture they paint. And so Gaston tells her, get your head out of those books. Which, given the time period in which the story takes place, she was probably reading like revolutionary, proto-Marxist literature, and Gaston was trying to save her from that. And he says, it's not right.
She was literally reading a fantasy book, which you already referenced earlier. You already made commentary about that. So you just had to throw communism into this 17th century French Disney movie for some reason. Makes sense. The Walt Disney Company, famously very sympathetic to leftist causes and communists and unions. They love it.
Right for a woman to read. Soon she starts getting ideas and thinking because Gaston understands that the woman is particularly vulnerable to the whispers of the serpent. But jokes aside, what they're trying to do here, if you can't tell, is appeal to this whole, no, I'm a girl and I can get educated. I don't have to have a family. There's more to that. There's more to life than that. Look at this big...
I don't even think Belle necessarily ever said she never wanted to be with anyone. At the beginning of the movie, she's reading a romance novel and clearly into it. It's part of the song. You already referenced it about the prince and not finding out it's him. She's not against marriage or being married. She just wants to be married to someone who respects her as a human being, which she does with the Beast after he not only ends up respecting her, but helping her with something she likes by being like, I have this giant library, read any of the books you want or whatever, you know? It's not about her not wanting to be married. It's about the fact that Gaston fundamentally does not understand or respect her as a person, and the Beast does eventually. And not only that, but respects and enjoys that she has hobbies like reading that she can take part in.
Dumb guy, he can't even read, blah, blah, because they have to appeal to the feminist narrative which this story is serving. But that being said...
The feminist narrative that you should actually like and respect the people that you want to spend the rest of your life with.
100 years of feminism has vindicated everything that Gaston said. So Belle leaves to go help her father, and LeFou makes some joke about him, and then Belle gets angry.
You know, I gotta be honest, John used to annoy me more, but as time goes on, I find it funnier, because especially, how do I put this? The further we get away from the 2020 election, I don't want to say there are no concerns. Obviously, there are conspiracy theorists, there are far right-wing people like John Doyle, but I do not foresee people like John Doyle actually taking permanent power anytime soon. And that's funny, because I'm normally the doomer person, but John Doyle specifically, even within his own party, he is a fucking joke. John Doyle will never get anywhere near power. He will grift on these shitty YouTube channels in the Blaze or wherever he ends up, maybe even in some other media position in some shitty right-wing thing, but he will always, to the majority of people who are aware of him, be a fucking joke, because he talks about shit like this. And I kind of love that. It's vindicating to me that John Doyle is a joke. And that's beautiful. So, I don't know. I'm kind of liking this video. Zero V Streaming says, I really do seem, or it really does seem that having to take off the MAGA hat broke John's brain. I know, right? Devious Chilster says, I'm not sure it's been brought up yet because I've been in and out, but John does realize Beauty and the Beast's original message was to convince girls to stay with people like John and the Beast in the first place, because the whole point was that true love will iron out all ugliness from a relationship, right? It's actually the literal complete opposite of what he's saying. I don't know. He's not really talking about the original folktale version of Beauty and the Beast, though. He's talking about the specific Disney version. So whatever. But yeah, there's a decent number of old folk tales with very questionable morals like that, which is why I'm glad Disney changed the moral in Beauty and the Beast, at least slightly. But yeah, Frog Prince was similar, except the message was you gotta beat the shit out of people to teach them a lesson. Because originally the Frog Prince was not you had to kiss him in order to turn him back into a prince. She beat the shit out of the Frog Prince, and that turned him back into a human in the original. Which I think is more entertaining. Whatever.
Angry. So Gaston berates.
Alice actually says, I just got here. I don't know what's going on, but I see Beauty and the Beast and John Doyle. Is John gonna argue that Gaston was the good guy and Belle is just a feminist bitch who doesn't appreciate a nice guy? You are spot on. That is what he has been doing for the last 14 and a half minutes, yes. It's really, really funny.
Rates his dysgenic manlet friend and defends Belle's father, because even though Gaston recognizes that Belle's father is a weak man, he still respects tradition and hierarchy, that her father still has ownership of her. So Belle gets back home and we learn that her father is an inventor, which in context means that this guy is literally facilitating the propagation of the Industrial Revolution, which will inevitably destroy the fabric of the town he's a part of through automation, through degeneration, but he does this in
Industrial Revolution bad. Hot take. John, you can go live in the woods if you want. That's fine.
the name of his pride, winning first prize at the fair or whatever. So he has some form of psychopathic personality disorder.
Wanting to invent things makes you a psychopath? Again, John's psychology is so interesting. He views Belle as selfish for wanting to live her own life and for saying no to Gaston. He views this guy as a psychopath or something for wanting to be an inventor and successfully being an inventor in many cases, but views Gaston as a good guy for gaslighting an entire town and trying to basically force Belle into being a sex slave for him. Speaks a lot to John's values, or more importantly, lack thereof.
And then he defends Belle's interest in...
Narnandi Owl says, fun fact, John, there weren't that many firearms before the Industrial Revolution. Stone Corbell says, does John want us to go back to the Middle Ages and live in thatched huts and use medieval techniques like bleeding and leeches? Whatever makes it so he can force an actual female in order to, be his wife, basically, yes. If he can disadvantage everyone enough that women, or at least a woman, needs him in order to survive, then yes. I would describe a lot of reactionaries, and I didn't come up with this, but a lot of reactionaries' politics come down to they would eat a shit sandwich if you had to smell their breath. If that makes sense. Nick says, in my headcanon, John Doyle is just a Unabomber who discovered time travel in YouTube.
Books, which makes sense because that...
Good job, Ollie. Good boy! He's using the litter box. Good job! 1 sec. Hey! Good boy. Good job. Just trying to positively reinforce him using the litter box.
Revolutionary literature exists in part as a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution that he exploits for his own pursuit of glory, since this fixation on creating new material things bled into the study of the abstract and the immaterial, but since that largely predated and transcends us...
Wasn't the Unabomber more left-leaning? I think John is more of a Timothy McVeigh variant. It's possible. I'm actually not super familiar with the Unabomber, other than he was very much against modern technology and modern society and stuff. I'm not sure of his political leanings. I know he went to a university where he was basically psychologically tortured in an experiment, which probably wasn't great. But yeah, Timothy McVeigh might be a better example. Or literally any modern school shooter. John reminds me of those guys a lot.
The new information had to just be criticizing all of the tradition.
Altered Rin says, pretty sure you've watched this before, but this sums up John and many other Chud's politics.
And then I said, no, this is the deepest lake in the world.
All right, guys, we should start the meeting. Oh my God, what is that smell?
Yeah, it smells like someone took a dump in here.
How strange.
Oh, no! Oh, no! It's poop!
You're holding a turd!
It's you!
Whoa! Look at that! I'm holding a turd!
Get rid of it! You're
Hey,
just keeping it out!
hey, hang on a second! Let's figure out what's going on.
What do you mean, throw it out?
Put it in the toilet.
I may be holding a turd, but that doesn't make it suddenly okay for all of you to scream at me.
Maybe you are holding a turd. There's no question here.
Well, let's say that I am. What sudden right does that give you to basically dehumanize me?
Because you're holding a turd, you sick freak.
Wow, Reika. So now anyone with a difference of opinion about what objects to hold or not hold is a sick freak?
Difference of opinions? That is not what this is.
That's a turd.
Okay, so you're saying that we're all holding turds.
What's he
Hydrate.
What's he doing with his words? Mind poison. He learned how to argue from the internet. Don't listen to him.
Don't listen to him. Does that sound like something an open-minded person would say?
You don't need to be open-minded, Brennan. You're holding a turd.
Don't
I'm
need
trying to focus the
to
camera.
be open-minded.
Stop.
Wait, do we need to be open-minded about this?
No,
He's making a good point.
he's not. It's word magic that he learned from a fountain of lies. Don't heed him.
Can I just point something out real quick? The very first time I step out of line, you all jumped on me. The second I wasn't conforming. Do you know who else thought exactly like that?
Oh, if you mention the Nazis.
First, they came for the people holding turds in their hands. And I said nothing, for I was not holding a turd.
You're a stupid asshole.
Name calling. Basically, you lost the argument right there. What's worse, rampant name calling or taking a quick, easy shit into your hand at your desk when no one's watching and smearing a little bit on your coworker's face?
Wait, you haven't smeared any on our coworkers.
Where's the kitty? He's over there.
Oh, what? No! No! Brennan, no!
Can I do something?
Why isn't anyone helping me?
I want to challenge you guys to voice your feelings about when I smear poop on you, and I want you to do it without resorting to raising your voice. Do you think you can do that?
No, you smug idiot.
Okay, so it's fine to yell at me for holding a turd, and yet I'm somehow not allowed to hold a turd without getting yelled at. Double standard?
Go to hell.
Guys, I agree that what Brennan is doing is wrong.
Yes.
But
What?
if we scream at him, doesn't that make us just as bad?
No! And the fact that you think that makes it so much worse!
Raph, I don't know if you noticed this. All of these guys are extremely upset, okay? I'm over here, cool as a cucumber, holding my turd, rational, reasonable, calm.
Wow, you are calm. Look, guys, I mean, maybe if...
Okay, well, so much for the tolerant left.
Your word sorcery ends now!
Censorship. This is censorship. censorship of my free speech.
We have to destroy him. We have to kill him now.
You know who else wanted to destroy people?
No, don't you say it, you son
I'll
of
tell
a...
you what. You guys are just like the Nazis because they were so certain they were right. That's the main takeaway I got from studying Nazis.
That was not the main thing about the Nazis.
Not at all.
I am a visionary that you fear because I represent change.
Kill him!
Wait! Now I'm holding 2 turds.
Yeah, that's scary accurate.
Additional information and basically throwing it all out in the name of progress or whatever. So Belle's father is working towards the industrialization of their town, and Gaston understands this. He understands the threat that it poses. But
Gaston can't even read, John. I don't think he understands the potential perils and issues that will arise in the advent of the Industrial Revolution.
Gaston is an operator above all things, so he bides his time with this, but it will come up again later. So then her father leaves to go to the fair and literally goes down the wrong path as a result of his pride and his unwillingness to delay gratification by taking a longer path against the instincts of the horse, which knew it was dangerous, by the way. And then he asks his horse, well, where have you taken us? Because he is literally incapable of accepting personal responsibility, of course, symptomatic of his psychopathic personality disorder. So then he gets chased by wolves into the castle, he meets the props, and he asks, well, how was this accomplished? Because he is incapable of or unwilling to acknowledge the immaterial, that there's clearly witchcraft at play. He would rather think of it
As opposed to John, who if he saw walking, talking, magical furniture would immediately be on board.
in terms of this like hyper-sophisticated invention or very early form of
This is infuriating. It's just John masturbating on screen, basically. In fairness, this is the closest to masturbation he gets, so good for him. Gray Fox 2343, thanks for 20 months. Wow, 20 months. Says, 4 months till 2 years. Wow, hadn't realized it had been that long. Congrats on your success on Twitch. I didn't realize it had almost been 2 years since I've been on Twitch either. That's ridiculous.
transhumanism or something. So the beast comes down and he's upset to find that he's sitting in his chair. He immediately starts melting down, claiming that the man came to stare at him because he's so insecure about his appearance. And it's this...
Yeah, the beast is in a really bad place at this point. Again, the point of the movie is, at least part of the point of the movie, I'd argue the A plot of the movie in terms of who changes is the beast. He is an insecure, angry, I would call him an I-word. Basically, at this point in the movie, he's very similar to people like John and John's fans. He's most similar to someone like Gaston. Through the course of meeting Belle, he becomes a better person. Thus the movie. Bumble Homestead, thanks for 20 months, says mine flipped over too. Nice.
This really feminine display overall because he simultaneously chooses to come downstairs to get involved in this because he wants attention and conflict. His staff had it under control. It wasn't even remotely in the same area of the castle that he was in, but he chooses to make it his problem and then immediately victimizes himself by claiming that the father is tormenting him for his appearance. Again, the beast is weak and deeply insecure. So the beast imprisons Belle's father. So now,
and yet he kills Gaston. Curious.
Gaston has saved Belle some time. He's gathered the whole town for their wedding. The guys are all happy. The women are all seething out of jealousy because he's not...
Again, Gaston, like a fucking psycho, planned an entire wedding before Belle had consented to marry him. She had made it clear at this point that she did not like him, was not interested, did not want to be with him in any sort of romantic or sexual context. And Gaston planned a wedding and invited everyone, went to her house, and said, I want to marry you. There's a wedding outside right now. You know, because I'm a manipulative fucking psychopath. Probably not psychopath. Probably narcissist. Joey is strong. Thanks for 300 bits.
Not marrying one of them. And then he goes inside Belle's house to tell her about his ideal future, how they're married, how he's providing her with fresh food to cook, how he gives her 7 sons. He literally says that, like he is so our guy. But
John, this is not going to bring you or your audience happy, fulfilled lives if this is how you continue to go about your view of women in relationships. You might be able to get someone. There are enough trad wife hangers-on in right-wing grifter communities that you could probably find someone along the lines of a Caitlyn Bennett. I'm not saying you won't. That's fine. I feel bad for that person, but that's their choice. Your audience, however, they don't have the platform or clout you have. So all you are doing is cursing your audience into never finding anyone, not having children, and further reducing the population of right-wing reactionary shitbags like yourself. It seems like a weirdly self-defeating strategy, but Sun Tzu did say, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake, so continue.
He has a plan. There is order to it. So, of course, Belle rejects this because she prefers to deal in disorder, in the chaotic. But instead of saying no, she tells him that she doesn't deserve him, which is another test. And if you've ever courted a young woman, you'll recognize this test. This is her.
And how is your success in courting young women going, John? Are you married yet? I'm engaged. How are you doing?
They're trying to get you to tell her how great she is. But then she publicly humiliates him by throwing him into a mud puddle. Now she's singing again.
Baja says, why would Gaston even want to marry Belle if there are so many other women vying for him? Because she is the only one who tells him no. She is the only disinterested person, and he can't handle that because he's a narcissist.
Fashions this like makeshift headdress for herself while singing "Me, His Little Wife," and then she rips it off, rejecting it, singing again that she just wants so much more than this provincial life because she's literally rejecting her nature as a woman.
John, have you considered that someone's nature as a woman or a guy or whatever can be like whatever they want? Who the fuck cares? Is your nature as a man to be a right-wing shitbag that everyone makes fun of? If so, you're doing a great job.
She perpetually wants more, yet she doesn't know what will make her happy.
She does, and she gets it at the end of the movie, which is why she's happy at the end of the movie with her husband, the Beast, whose real name I don't know. I don't know if they ever actually say his real name in the movie at any point. But they're married and she is happy. So, you're wrong? Like I said, she's not even against marriage. She's against marrying Gaston, who she has no interest in because he's disgusting and doesn't respect her as a person. Sky Comet Fallen says he puts his stinky bare feet on her table right in front of her while talking about impregnating her. What a perfect man, right, John? Profane Priestess says, cleanse, because somehow I have more bits without buying them. I think sometimes you can get bits for watching ads or something. I'm not sure, though. I'll keep that off to the side for later. Thank you. Baja says, congrats on your engagement. I wonder who the lucky woman is. She's downstairs. She's, quite wonderful. RMG0006 says, Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite movies from childhood. I'm genuinely getting pissed off listening to this motherfucker misinterpret it. And happy holidays, Hannah and Baja. Thank you so much. 5,000 bits. Wow, that is really, really generous of you. I appreciate that so much. Happy holidays.
Always wanting more, but she doesn't know how to define that. So she runs into this field talking about how she wants adventure, which is symbolic of not wanting to be tied down or whatever. And again, jokes aside,
I think she just doesn't want to be here. She wants to go and experience things. A lot of people like that. That's not uncommon.
This is the message of the film, and it backfires spectacularly, as we'll explain later on. But it's like, think about that. I want more.
It doesn't backfire. She becomes a princess and marries someone she loves, who respects her. It's the opposite of backfiring. She gets a... I cannot say literally in a more literal sense than this. It is a literal fairy tale ending for her.
I want more. She runs away from this organized wedding. She didn't have to lift a finger. The greatest man in the village.
Are you Mrs. and Mrs. Blast? Or are you staying Mrs. Reloaded for clarity's sake? I will be taking, Baja's last name. Yes.
And probably the entire country of France at this point, frankly. And she runs away from that in pursuit of more and ends up in an empty field. Like, this is very emblematic of the utter state of the Western woman. It's like...
Okay, apparently John doesn't understand visual metaphors for opportunity. Interesting.
I reject...
Felix Night Owl, thanks for 12 months. Happy anniversary.
It's the natural order of things. I want more. you're in a field. You're empty, literally in terms of geography and your internalized spirit. You stupid. But anyways, the horse comes back without her father, and so she goes with the horse to the castle, and she finds her father, but the beast refuses to let him go. And so now she's on her knees in front of him, looking up at him like, please, there must be something I can do, anything. And to the beast's credit here, he just totally rejects her advances because he just goes, no, he's my prisoner. And again, it's hard to write off the beast because he really is subtly based in that he's basically an autistic incel. But anyways, Belle offers to take the place of her father, and the beast agrees if she promises to stay there forever. And at this point, her father, who, yeah, he's not a strong figure in her life, but even he's like...
He's implying sexual content in a 90s Disney movie made for children. And not even in the Animaniacs way. He literally just implied that Belle was offering to suck the beast's dick. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen Rule 34 to that effect. But that is not the context in the Disney movie. That is pure fan fiction.
Belle, what are you doing? Don't do this. And it just goes to show how women will literally destroy their own lives just to spite standards that they think are oppressive. Like this girl literally rejected her town and everything that it had to offer. She rejects Gaston, who is literally the ideal male, all because she needs something more. She can't be held down. And
you did mean in stream, not real life. I will be keeping the reloaded name on stream.
And then in less than 90 seconds, she agrees to spend the rest of her life in a castle with a monster. And you can say, oh, she did it to save her father. But it's like, first of all, this is 1700s, 1800s France, and that guy is old and fat. He's sick now. He's got like maybe...
yes. People usually make very rational pros and cons list decisions when it comes to the people they love being trapped forever by a monster. It's a fairy tale, John.
Maybe 2 years left. Secondly, she's actually...
RMG0006 says, Hannah, sorry, but I don't know. Do you make more income from subs or bits? Probably should have asked before buying a bunch of imaginary Twitch money. Thank you for another 1,000 bits. They're both good for different reasons. So I'll explain if anyone actually cares. Bits, I get... 1 bit equals 1 penny. So if you give me 1,000 bits, I get $10, basically. If you give me 50 bits, I get 50 cents. A tier 1 sub, I make $2.50 on. Higher tiers, I get more of a cut. I believe, like, per dollar amount, I might make a little more on bits. However, subs are also helpful because if you gift people subscriptions, it can be a higher chance that people will come back to the channel and be regular viewers. So... they're both good for different reasons. I get more direct revenue from bits, but subs are good because they help the channel grow, which also leads to larger viewership and potentially more revenue for the channel. So it just kind of depends. Both are good, and I appreciate any support anyone gives to the channel.
Actually contesting her father by disobeying his authority over her and doing...
Princess Amelia says, it really shouldn't have surprised anyone that John saw an aggressively unpleasant anti-intellectual in Gaston and was like, this is the hero we need. I know, right? Wow, RMG0006 says, okay, good to know, thank you. Otherwise, fuck it. More play money with another 2,000 bits. Jesus Christ, you have a lot of money burning a hole in your pocket. Thank you for sharing some with me. It genuinely helps the show keep going, so that's nice.
So by masquerading it with the typically masculine virtue of sacrifice. She's literally LARPing one of those books.
You gotta be the bits leader at this point, right?
That she never should have been reading in the first place, frankly. And this is what happens to her. So she has no true concept of feminine identity because she doesn't have a mother figure. She rejects everything that she's called to do by her community because she regards it to be...
Her community just wants her to lay back and take Gaston's gross, sweaty hunter dick. Like, that's it. No, John... people do not have to do these things. That's fine.
Binding. And so the only sense of identity that she can find in her real life is inspired by that.
Yeah, John doesn't think women should be literate or allowed to read. He doesn't think they should be allowed to vote either. John's a weird... he's not even just a fascist. He's like a weird trad fascist, if I had to put it like a word to it. Like in John's fascist dystopia... even Caitlyn Bennett doesn't have rights.
that into which she retreated, which are those books. So she tries to be the hero figure because she recognizes the opportunity to do so. But in her pride, she failed to calculate how stupid of a hill it was to die on since her father's going to be dead soon anyways. Now she's in exactly the situation that she thought that she wanted to avoid. This de facto arrangement.
Yeah, it was a sacrifice on her part, giving away her dreams in order to save the only person she loves in life, her father, who even though he's old, it doesn't matter to her because she is the only family she knows, the only person she loves at this point. John doesn't understand altruistic sacrifice, does he? It's all narcissistic calculations of value in his head. Interesting. MW1642, thanks for gifting a sub. Zero V Streaming, thanks for 45-bit, says, do you think John ran this script past his IRL friends? Oh, who am I kidding? John left his only real friend back in Michigan. I don't know. He definitely has friends in Texas. He does that show for the Blaze sometimes. Slightly Offensive, I think it's called. Joey is strong. Thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs to the community. Oh man, everyone's just killing it with like support for the show today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Arranged marriage. So now she's literally in a stone dungeon crying because she thought she was too good to marry Gaston. Remember, the toll will...
I'm gonna be real, I'd rather be in a stone dungeon than have to spend a single day married to Gaston, so I think she made the right call.
Always be paid. Belle assumed authority over her father by sacrificing herself for him, which objectively was a bad move, and now she's crying about it in a room by herself.
Yes, she should have very logically said, no, I will not save my father. He will be dead soon anyway. I will leave. It's interesting, too, that John thinks that the Beast would have let her leave anyway. She also broke into his castle. So I don't think this was a case of, like, either I get to go free or my dad does. I think it's more of a case of I will voluntarily not fight you and stay here in exchange for you not keeping us both and letting my dad go. Again, I think John just doesn't know how to understand the plots of children's films.
This is what happens when
media literacy is not the right strong suit.
Women are allowed to
and I think the further right you go, the less good you are at media literacy.
Think for themselves. But then the Beast
John must think Fight Club is super badass. John definitely watches Fight Club and thinks like, fuck yeah, I love Tyler Durden. Project Mayhem all the way. Somewhere Chuck Palahniuk is putting a gun in his mouth.
Go wherever she wants except for the West Wing, and you'll never guess where this girl decides to go later. It's like you tell a woman not to do something and her HUD just recognizes it as like objective updated, do that thing. But then the Beast is like, you will join me for dinner, this is not a request. And we have to remember not to be charmed by the Beast, not to think that he's our guy, because
you're not supposed to be charmed by the Beast at this point. He's literally being a monster, both in the literal physical sense and the emotional abusive sense. You know, the themes and plot of the movie. Zarek Shadow says, wonder how he would interpret Breaking Bad. I'm pretty sure he would love Heisenberg.
His assertiveness over the woman is not from a place of confidence, but rather his own insecurity lashing out. Like Gaston does this because he's a Chad. And the Beast isn't even doing this because he's like a Sigma male, but rather because, again, he's basically an autistic incel. And of course, she's like, I won't have dinner with you. Yet again, another shit test, which he fails by throwing a tantrum. But we continue.
That's not a shit test. She doesn't want to have dinner with someone who kidnapped her.
Now we're at the lodge, all the guys are there, and Gaston's feeling a little bit down after the whole Belle situation earlier, and so the fellas cheer him up by singing a song about how much of a chat he is. Like, they literally have a song dedicated to how epic he is. All the men want to be him, all the women want him, and it's like, if he's the villain, why am I rooting for him?
This is a moment John could have had an aha moment of self-awareness. But instead, he decided to make a 35-minute movie about how actually the clear villain of the story is a good guy, instead of self-reflecting and wondering why his moral compass points in the same direction as a cartoonishly evil villain from a 90s children's film. I swear to God, he's gonna make a video about the Lion King, about how Scar was right and how actually having the hyenas goose-stepping was actually pretty fucking epic. That's next week's video. I'm calling it now.
If he's the villain, why is everyone rooting for him? He's drinking.
Because the town are also wrong, and they also learn their lesson by the end of the movie, John. Watch the movie.
With the boys, he's wrestling with the boys, he's singing with the boys, he's playing chess with the boys, he's spitting with the boys, he's shooting with the boys, he flips over the chessboard as a rejection of the abstract in favor of natural law, he's hoisting people up with one arm, he's wrestling all the guys in town.
That actually happened at the Turning Point USA event. I don't believe you. That's so on the nose. There's no way that happened.
Once he's talking about
Dr. Gamble says, I think next time will be John telling us how Claude Frollo is the hero for purging the homeless and burning a city down for the lust of a woman. Hey, Hellfire is a fucking jam, okay? Hellfire. I don't remember the specific words. Charlie Kirk talked about it. It's hard to even satirize the right at this point, because they're literally just, like, taking all the masks off. Fucked up. Narnia Owl says John literally had an "Are we the baddies" moment. Yeah, he did.
About how he ate 4 dozen eggs as a boy and now 5 dozen eggs a day as a man, which is why he's roughly the size of a barge. I mean, this guy is it. He's loved by his community. He rejects books and sources because those are how weak people justify their beliefs, since...
I need to listen to that one again.
Loved by his community, he rejects books and sources because those are how weak people justify their beliefs, since...
Fucking books, man. Only idiots use those things. Again, John Doyle has a whole section on his website that's like a recommended right-wing reading list, so... Hypocritical.
They're incapable of original thought. He takes care of his dysgenic manlet...
John, basically everyone is incapable of entirely original thought. Even brand new ideas are derivative in some way, even if they derive from bucking against previously thought of truisms. You stupid asshole. Nick says Gaston's farts must be epically rancid if he eats that many fucking eggs a day. I know, right? I'm surprised you didn't get salmonella. Nick says, dysgenic? Them's a Nazi words, buddy. Yeah, he's a Nazi. Surprise.
Friend, he's dancing with him. Like, this guy's fantastic. I'd be on his team every day of the week and twice on Sunday. How are we supposed to believe that this guy is the villain? I'm being serious again. Like, literally, he doesn't even...
Because he wants to rape Belle. The rape would be, the rape, probably. It's the rape.
Even had the typical, like, I'm evil and I want to do evil things. Like, he's just like, I'm...
Does John not understand? Oh, that, okay. John confuses temperament for morality. John thinks if you are calm, collected, and confident, then you are good no matter what you do, instead of understanding that you can be well-meaning and confident and believe what you are doing is righteous and still be an evil motherfucker. That elucidated a lot about John's personality, I think, to me.
I'm the best and I want to marry Belle. And then the story's like, he's the bad guy because Belle wants to read books and be free, and marriage would tie her down.
She's married by the end of the movie. At least it's implied they're married. I think the sequel, because there is this actual sequel too, I think, not just... No, I guess there was 2 midquels. There was the Christmas one, and then they did another midquel that was like a pilot episode for a TV show. Pretty sure it's implied they get married, though. In the, Disney live-action TV show... What is it called? It's basically about the children of the Disney characters. And, Beauty and the Beast are characters in it, and they are married. And it's made by Disney, so I'd call that about as canon as you can get. She gets married by the end, John. It's not against marriage. It's against forced marriage to people that you don't like. Nick says, I'm putting money on John liking Dio Brando. I don't know who that is.
Guest
Descendants. That's the name of it, yeah.
John actually demonstrates a proper understanding of love, by the way.
RMG, again, says, with 500 bits says, this is why debating doesn't work. When you can literally misinterpret a movie's message to be the exact opposite of what it is, there's no argument. You can't win against this kind of arrogant stupid. The thing is, I don't even think John's stupid here. He knows everything he's saying isn't true. The entire point of a lot of fascist rhetoric is to say, I do not care what the reality is. Reality to a fascist is an afterthought. The rhetoric comes first. If reality doesn't fit the rhetoric, then you change reality, or at the very least pretend that reality conforms to your rhetoric, not the other way around. That's like a hallmark of fascist talking points. John knows what he's doing. John is evil. John is socially stupid. John is emotionally stupid, but he is not intellectually stupid. He is not rhetorically stupid. He knows exactly what he is doing here, and he is feeding his audience a very specific narrative in order to try and make this narrative feel as though it is more true than it actually is in reality, because it's just not, obviously.
Which the Beast doesn't. We'll talk about that a bit later. But now, since the Beast fails the shit test and Belle's not coming to dinner, the Beast is in his room sulking like, she'll never see me as anything but a monster. It's hopeless, just going total doomer mode. Meanwhile, Belle manipulates clocks.
Yeah, you know, because the Beast actually has, like, human emotions, unlike Gaston, who seems to have two modes, which are horny and angry. A lot like John.
By exploiting his love of presenting information about the castle through tours to explore the one area she wasn't supposed to go to. And she finds the rose from the beginning with the witch, and she's like, oh, this rose in a glass case, so nothing will touch it. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the glass case and try to touch it. And then the Beast finds her and gets angry because she did the one thing that she wasn't supposed to do, and then she immediately starts crying and victimizing herself. Now she's fleeing the castle because she had...
I think it more had to do with the fact that he's a scary fucking monster that was, like, screaming at her and intimidating her. He could clearly murder her at any moment. He's a scary guy. Like, again, I like Beauty and the Beast. It's a beautiful movie. Like, its animation is, like, some of the best Disney has absolutely ever done. If you watch Beauty and the Beast on, like, Blu-ray or 4K, oh my god, it's gorgeous. Seriously, if you have the opportunity, I'd recommend it if you're a fan of animation at all. Gorgeous movie. But yeah, some of the story elements are still iffy. I understand what they're going for with the redemption arc for the Beast, but I think they go so overboard. Like, I get that they're trying to illustrate that it's coming from a place of insecurity, but, like, a lot of the time abusive people do their abuse because of insecurity. That doesn't make the abuse okay. But that's just, again, it's a product of the 90s, you know, and it's a product of an ancient folklore story that has questionable morals in the first place, so... For an adaptation, I think it's good, but yeah, it's got problems. H. Baird says, to a fascist, stating that something is a fact is an act of power, and accepting it as true is an act of submission to that power. Hence, Kim Jong-un claims to hit 11 holes in one every time he golfs, and all Republicans have to state that they doubt the 2020 election. My dad, who is a Trump supporter, very right-wing my whole life, I haven't talked to him in a very long time because he was like an abusive alcoholic guy. Really, really, really not a good guy. But I remember a conversation we had very specifically. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but it was about him contending that something was true that was not. It was like something that was, you know, very much not true. And I said to him, his justification was basically a lot of people believe this thing, people he knows. And I said, a lot of people believing a thing does not make something true. Something can be true or something can be false, and a lot of people can believe it. And then I gave examples of things that people in the past or whatever had believed that turned out to not be true. And I'll never forget. This is one of the only, this is a conversation I will never forget from my father. And it stuck with me. And it makes me think a lot about how people on the right tend to view reality. And he said, no, what are you talking about? If most people believe a thing, it's absolutely true. I think at a fundamental level, he doesn't believe in objective reality. It's very interesting. And you could talk rhetorically, right? And say, like, well, practically, rhetorically, if your goal is not truth and your goal is just power or whatever, then getting enough people to be convinced of something is an effective tool. But that's not even what he said. He said, no, if you convince enough people of a thing, then it is true. Really horrifying.
Has no
relativity. I saw you mention that in a video recently. No, that was a separate fucked up conversation he and I had. Interesting guy. I'm curious if he got the COVID shots. He had always gotten flu shots my whole life. He was never anti-vax, but he's a big Trump supporter, and a lot of Trump supporters are anti-vax now, so I'm genuinely wondering if he ever got vaccinated or anything. But, whatever. Either way, when he dies, I'm gonna probably pee on his grave, so. That's a joke. It's a joke. For legal reasons.
Principles. She only cares about what immediately validates her ego. First it was a hero complex, now it's this I'm too good to get in trouble for doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing mentality. So she makes a promise to stay there forever, breaks the rules, decides she's not at fault, and then breaks the commitment. Like, this is literally how no-fault divorce works. She doesn't know what's good for her.
Oh my fucking god, John. John doesn't like no-fault divorce because he wants to abuse women as much as he wants as long as there's no evidence, and then his wife can't leave him. Yay.
She always wants more. She's always too good for whatever environment she's in. Now,
John, Beast is an abusive asshole in the movie at this point.
now she's getting attacked by wolves.
Nick with 45-bit says, I'm too good to get in trouble for doing things I'm not supposed to do. I wonder how he feels about the QAnon shaman.
And so then she's saved by the Beast. She goes back to the castle with him, and now she's like trying to clean his wounds. But again, the Beast gets into this like autistic episode where he's growling at her for trying to touch his wounds, and he's like LARPing as an animal, because remember, Belle thinks he's actually a beast, but he's not.
Overprotected Atheist, thanks for rating. Welcome, Raiders. We're watching John Doyle misinterpret a beloved children's film. And yeah, him using that particular non-neurotypical thing to describe the Beast is fucked up. Go check out the Overprotected Atheist here on Twitch.
And he knows that. He's still a man, but he's LARPing. But anyways, then he gives her a whole library, like the biggest library you've ever seen. And that should tell you all you need to know right there. Like literally the Chad don't read books versus the Virgin. Here, take all of them.
I really hope John never, ever, ever gets close enough to a woman to have the opportunity to treat her like he wants to treat women. Simple Cat Girl says, honestly, I don't like the Beauty and the Beast since I agree with the Beast being too overboard. I like how other versions handled the Beast to still kind of be scary, but not outright aggressive. My favorite Disney is The Princess and the Frog. For both, it's a good movie and biased reasons. I still don't think I've seen that one. That came out after I was watching the Disney 2D movies, and then they basically stopped making them after that. I still have to see it. My favorite Disney animated movie is probably either Little Mermaid or Aladdin. Those are both really good. Chrysia says, he's not LARPing as a beast. It fucking hurts. Yeah, he's not great. Ooh, hydrate. Must be smacky. Sorry.
And then we get into this really weird montage of the Beast like learning to behave.
All the 90s Disney movies have really questionable shit in them if you try and like actually look at them, you know. Little Mermaid's weird in that she's like a 16-year-old girl who wants to give up her whole life for not only her whole life but her voice so she can go find the first human man she's ever seen. Let's see. Aladdin is a compulsive liar. And if you see the Aladdin TV show, it's even worse, because at least in the movie,
or whatever, and
you get the impression in the first movie that he's gotten over his compulsive lying, but in the sequels and in the show, he's not. He's just a compulsive liar. Let's see, what's wrong in Hercules? I'd have to see Hercules again to really point that one out, but you know, there's a lot of issues in Disney movies. Any text is going to have issues if you look at it literally.
What's important to note here is that Belle's validation and purpose comes only from control and power. She needed to artificially and socially engineer the Beast into something he isn't to feel validated and powerful. Gaston wasn't enough for her because he was already perfect, and she rejected the feminine attitude shared by virtually every woman in the village, which was that their validation was to come from being the wife of the best man.
And it is inherently immoral to not believe the same things as the people around you, even though you're not hurting anyone via your beliefs. That's an interesting take. And by interesting, I mean fucking fascist.
But since that implied a position of submissiveness to the man, it did not satisfy the revolutionary ego of Belle, who by this point is a sexual Marxist. And she even...
What does that even fucking mean? Can I get a t-shirt that says sexual Marxist? Oh my god. Yes, please.
brags about this in a song. How she's able to change the beast into a perversion of itself. And you might say, but he's a person underneath. Yeah, but she doesn't know that, remember? She's literally trying to normalize bestiality to herself.
She has to, in her mind, she has to spend the rest of her life with this being. Whether she knows he's a human or not, he's clearly humanoid in that he has thoughts and feelings and they communicate with one another and talk and hang out. Of course she wants to make him more pleasant to be around, John.
White women and bestiality.
Ooh, Hunchback. That's another good one to talk about the problematic elements. Basically everything involving the Romani peoples in the movie. The movie's like, hey, these minorities, it's wrong that you paint them all as thieves, but then every character in the movie from that group is actually also a thief? What? I don't. Simple Cat Girl says, oh no, is he going to claim she's trying to do bestiality? Yeah, of course.
Talk about a tale as old as time. I will not elaborate on this. However, just know that there is no greater indication that a white woman has given up on having a family than her adopting a male dog in her late 20s, early 30s. Like, we all know a few of those, but here's something else.
Having a pet is... okay. I'm really hoping that any woman who ever deigns to go out on a date with John Doyle Googles his name, finds this channel, and watches this horrifying video and runs. They need to ghost him and never look back. Do you think he moved to Texas in the hopes of finding a woman who would put up with him? I don't know how that's working out.
Important to note. The happiest Belle is seen in the entire movie is during the tale as old as time sequence. Look at why that is. She's in a place in the middle of nowhere that she's totally unfamiliar with. She's surrounded by transhumanist, sentient, occult objects that talk. She's romancing a literal monster. Everything around her is completely inverted because Belle can only thrive in chaos, in the realm of the unnatural. She's rejected her home and her spot at the top of the feminine hierarchy.
How dare you have agency of your own and choose not to follow the paths others believe is the best for you when you find it to be terrible? Get in your place! Jesus Christ.
In favor of the complete inversion of everything that she formerly knew, because Belle at her core possesses that revolutionary chaotic spirit, which is the consequence of...
One thing I appreciate, living in a, late stage capitalist hellscape is not good. But at the very least, I'll give it this. Both Democrats are neoliberals, and liberalism, as a tenet, usually tries to grant, permissibility and freedoms to people, as much as possible. And Republicans are so pro-business that they want the largest labor force possible, so they're not going to tell women outright to get back in the kitchen, because that's less cheap labor that they can exploit as business owners. So basically, both major parties in the country are cock-blocking John Doyle from his fascist nightmare world. So I appreciate that.
Of unchecked feminine energy, not guided by a mother, not checked by her father, and influenced by proto-Marxist literature, and now she can only find purpose through chaos. And this is why the tale as old as time is in reference to the true plot of the film. Think about it. As old as time. What is that in reference to? Genesis in the Garden of Eden, where we see what happens when unchecked feminine nature is allowed to manifest. And this is dog whistling to the audience that they have to read between the lines and see that the true story is about the chaos.
If we're talking about dog whistling, I mean... it's a John Doyle video.
In the order of the female condition. And
didn't John said citing books earlier was weakness. He's literally citing a book.
Whether it will be the weak man or the strong man to channel her energy in destructive or proto...
And yes, he's basically just cribbing off Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life and his other stuff.
destructive ways, respectively. Beauty and the Beast are the competing sides of Belle, reflected by whichever force is able to channel her energy. The beautiful Gaston, bringing out her beauty within the natural order of things, or the hideous Beast, doing the opposite, allowing her to become a destructive beast. But even then, stop laughing, this is serious. Even then, inherent to chaos is that it's always changing. So she still can't be happy in this ideally chaotic environment that she's created, and so the Beast releases Belle so that she can go back to being with her still sick and dying father. And like, as a man, I can't respect this. Like, she literally puts you through all of that, and then she's just gonna go back to the life that she wholeheartedly rejected in the first place. Plus, it's this whole like, as long as she's happy, that's all that matters mentality, which is just rationalized weakness. That's all that is. And this is the opposite.
Yeah, be like John and think that it's okay to force women to love you. That's not horrifying.
Of Gaston.
What the fuck, John?
Which we'll talk about in a second. But again, the true nature of the Beast is...
RMG with 1,000 bits says, I always thought that the world would get better. Like, the shitty takes were part of a previous generations and they would die off. How do these people keep being born? It feels like this mentality wouldn't engender love and perpetuation of itself, but I keep fucking seeing John's and Nick Fuentes's. If it makes you feel better... John and people like him are very loud, but I do believe they're still quite a minority, especially amongst younger generations. Like, Gen Z, which John is a part of, are the most progressive and left-leaning generation in American history. Does that mean that they're all people who are gonna reject John's message and laugh to his face? No, of course you're always gonna have misanthropic, authoritarian shitheads like John. I think that's a struggle that goes on basically throughout all of human history, is people who want more permissibility and freedoms for people and people who want to take control and put people in boxes in order to get what they want done, no matter what the cost. And things kind of go back and forth, you know? Historically, but I think right now we're in a place where in like 20 years, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of other problems with like climate disaster and stuff. There is a fear of the continued rise of like right-wing fascism all around the world as the climate crisis gets worse, especially if we don't deal with income inequality. These are issues, but this particular form of it specifically that's incredibly like women shouldn't even be allowed to read and should basically be Handmaid's Tale style incubators for men to put their seed in. I can't see that gaining any sort of steam in the near future. Who knows? Could be wrong, but I don't know. John Doyle's a joke even amongst pretty far-right people. He's pathetic. Sky Comet Fallen says, John doesn't have any clue what love is. After all, self-sacrifice is weakness to him. Yep. Orphan84, thanks for tier 1 for 3 months in advance. I appreciate that. Gray Fox 2343 with 100 bits says, sees hype train, puts in coal, which kicks off a hype train. Thank you.
Revealed. He is a selfish aristocrat. His entire help, his best and only friends are counting on him to break this curse, and he throws it away for his own self-image of being like this compassionate, understanding guy or whatever. He's at the top. He's in control. He has an obligation to his people, and he throws it away out of...
John believes that... Interesting. John believes that exercising all power at your disposal, no matter how destructive it is a better moral standpoint than letting someone free to do what they want and not exerting your power over them in order to hamper their agency. Again, fascist.
Of weakness. He's pathetic, so...
3% to level 2 on the hype train.
Belle finds her father. Update, he's still dying. And now there's an angry mob coming to lock Belle's father in the insane asylum for trying to undermine the distributist agrarian economic model of the town.
No, it's because Gaston basically hired a guy from a mental asylum to come and deem him insane because Gaston is a narcissistic crazy person who thinks it's okay to gaslight the entire town into putting an old man in an insane asylum that he doesn't belong in so he can force a woman into marriage. Again, actually watch the plot of the movie. MW1642, thanks for 100 bits. Simple Cat Girl with 45 says, did no one in his life ever teach him about love and its many aspects of love? Like, doesn't he does he not understand that you can want someone so badly and still respect them as their own person with their own beliefs and agency? You can mess up some guts. Oh my god, you can mess up some guts, then make their favorite snacks because you love them. Also, the importance of platonic love and familiar love. Jesus, John. No, he is not. John literally and unironically believes that he knows what is better for women than any woman on the planet, and he thinks that he is doing them a favor by exerting authoritarian control over them and telling them that they are not allowed to have agency because he will do better for them. He unironically believes that. It's really messed up. Bittergrin with 50 bits, Meek with 45 bits says all his beliefs just reek of insecurity. Very much so. RMG, thank you for gifting a tier 3 sub. Wow, to the crafter. Congrats on the tier 3. Fun. And then Thrash Mio with 1,650 bits! Wow. We've had quite a day in terms of keeping the stream alive. Thank you, everyone. I really, really appreciate it. 23% to level 4.
And also for ineffectively spreading word about the beast because nobody actually respects him or takes him seriously, and so they just assume that he's crazy. So Gaston tells Belle that he can make all of this stop if she just agrees to marry him. And Belle says no, because being married to the literal ideal man and living happily ever after to save her father...
Gaston is not the ideal man. John, if you think Gaston is the ideal man, why don't you go suck his dick? Like, what? John... She doesn't like Gaston. She doesn't find him attractive. He is not objectively attractive or good. There is no such thing. He should go marry one of the women who actually like him. That would be fine. You cannot force people to want you, John. Princess Amelia says, it just hit me that Gaston is the real beast because he never outgrew his shitty ways. I can't believe it took John Doyle to indirectly help me realize that. Yeah. It's the same moral as Hunchback. Who's the real monster and who's the real man? Tea with Goblin says, no one whines like this. No one whines like this, John. Trump lines like this, John. No one dog whistles Nazi bullshit like this, John. He's especially fond of the patriarchy. Why won't it die? That fash, John. That gets a stream award for best original song. Best parody song. Fuck. Procagam, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Choking Ouroboros, thank you for 500 bits. And that catches us up. Monster Jr., thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Wow. I think that just killed the hype train. I think we just got over level 5.
Is frankly beyond the scope of her operations, unlike agreeing to live in a castle with a literal monster for the rest of her life to save her father earlier, right? And this is because Belle's true mission above all else is rejecting male authority. She does this by rejecting her father's wishes in the beginning where she gets herself locked up. Now she rejects...
It can't just be that she has different wants than the other men around her, than the men around her. It has to be that she's intentionally trying to be contrarian. Interesting. John, have you considered that different people can have different views on things and have their own agency? Zarek Shadow, thanks for 100 bits. Princess Amelia, thanks for 100, says all aboard. The Hype Express, 138% to level 5, and we got a hats off, so I gotta change my accessory again. I think these died, right? The batteries are dead in these? We'll go with the witch hat.
Gaston's wishes and presumably her father's wishes, since he's anti-beast and at least Gaston sympathetic or Gaston adjacent at this point, to let him be taken away instead of, God forbid, taking a break from having the Midas touch of chaos. And like we said earlier, Gaston is an operative. He understands that Maurice's work as an inventor will ultimately be destructive to his town in the long run. But he's also willing to let Maurice continue to be free if Belle marries him because he knows that his 7 sons will end up wielding enough power in the town to counteract any of those negative effects. But for the time being, he's fine with just removing him from the society to go to the insane asylum. And this...
Jesus Christ. Where's Ollie? He's on the chair over there.
This is when Belle turns her subversive efforts to the townsfolk. She exposes them to her occult mirror prop and tells them about this mythical creature because she wants them to think that her father isn't actually crazy. And she wants to get the townsfolk.
Correct, he is not crazy.
To indulge in her occult bestiality fantasy with her. And it is here when Gaston realizes that this has all been
IshQ963, thanks for hosting.
one big shit test. He tells Belle that he suspects that she has feelings for the monster.
Why does he think anytime a woman does something he doesn't like, it's a shit test? Maybe you're just an asshole. It's not a shit test. You're just shit.
And Belle replies by saying, "He's no monster, Gaston. You are." And at this point, Gaston realizes that Belle exists to pervert and degenerate everything that she comes into contact with. It is no longer about his dream of making her his wife and giving her a happy and fulfilling life. Gaston realizes now that it is more than that. It is about an obligation to his people. She is the ultimate wielder of destructive feminine energy, and he realizes that the only way to stop it is for him to finally take control of her and provide to her that authoritative masculine influence that she...
Is this a troll job, or is he not being ironic? I guess it depends on what you mean. The rhetoric he is espousing throughout this video is 100% what he actually believes, but of course he doesn't actually believe that Beauty and the Beast is saying this. He's using Beauty and the Beast as a sounding board in order to do basically a 35-minute speech about his fascist ideology. Narendra Owl says, shittiest is also very MRA, I-word terminology. Yeah.
She's so
or shit test, rather. Sorry. Shit test is MRA, I-word terminology. It is.
Desperately needs. Her father's influence is taken care of. It's removed. He's gone now. So the only thing left is this monster. So Gaston begins basically like rhetorically psyoping the townsfolk to garner support for his cause. Basically just like inventing these bad outcomes that could potentially happen to scare people. And because...
Yeah, so he's lying to them in order to gaslight them into thinking that the Beast is a threat to them when he has never been. Again, Gaston's the bad guy. IshQ963, thanks for subscribing for 2 months, says happy holidays. Happy holidays to you too.
Because he's respected, within seconds, the men are marching with Gaston to the castle to kill the Beast, singing Gaston's praises the entire way there. They're singing, "We're counting on Gaston to lead the way." And this is Gaston's arc as the true protagonist of the story. If there's two things he's known for, it's being the best hunter in the village and attracting the most women in the village.
Nick says, Gaston sounds kind of like Hitler, John. That's why he has a boner for him. Zero V Streaming says, this video makes more sense if you see it as John's long-winded way of saying he's afraid of getting cooties.
And so now, he must conquer his most deadly hunt yet in order to stop the true Beast, Belle's destructive feminine energy, thereby conquering the most beautiful woman in the process, because Gaston is the hero, Belle is the villain, and the Beast is basically a tragic anti-hero. And in fact, the Beast is such a weak leader that when the castle is under attack, he's pouting in the West Wing with no plan, no way to inspire his people, whereas Gaston literally just makes up a few stories, and within 5 minutes, he has an armed caravan about to storm the castle.
And he still loses. What a beta, am I right? Scott Comet Fallen says, that's bad. Thou shalt not bear false witness, John. Oh, it's cute that you think John actually believes in the Bible and isn't just using it as a rhetorical tool in order to manipulate his stupid audience.
They've got a song prepared, and because Gaston is a true aristocrat with honor, he tells those below him that they can have whatever they can find for themselves. However, the Beast is rightfully his because he's the leader, and the people all respect this because they respect Gaston, because Gaston has a true allegiance to noble and traditional aristocracy. And in fact, the castle's counterattack wasn't even launched by the Beast. It was launched by a candle. But
a candle that got laid. I can't believe the movie basically explicitly says the candle fucks the duster. I just remember that.
Then Gaston finds the Beast, and the Beast, seeing an arrow aimed at him, he literally turns away because he's pouting over a woman. Gaston recognizes
he's gonna be turned into a beast anyway permanently in a few moments, which is why he doesn't care if he dies, John. Again, actually pay attention to the plot of the movie.
that
Maybe John's issue is that he can't understand people's internal lives because he is incapable of having empathy.
And tries to do him a favor by at least awarding him a soldier's death.
John is pro-aristocracy. As long as he gets to be a member, of course he is.
So he shoots him with an arrow, and instead of just continuing to shoot him with arrows and killing him, he lets the Beast go out fighting. But the Beast refuses to fight back, but then Belle shows up, and oh, now the Beast is fighting back. And Gaston yells, "It's over, Beast! Belle is mine!" But what does this mean? What does he mean, it? It is over. Something that he and the Beast have both been experiencing. Gaston means this.
Their fight, you idiot. Again, I know he's not serious. Like I said, I know he's just using this as a rhetorical tool in order to get across his shitty, like, fashy opinions. I understand that. But his audience is very stupid if they don't understand what he is doing and really think that this is a valid interpretation of the film. RMG with another 500 bits says, Hannah, he doesn't fuck the duster, he makes love to it, you pervert. I apologize.
This metaphorically. It's over, meaning Belle's reign of
Jezebel N says, sorry to be off topic for a moment, I wanted to share the good news with you that I finally started hormones. Fuck yes. Congratulations.
chaos. She will now be under his authority, and she will be happier and stabler for that. The Beast cannot have this because he's insecure. He would rather have Belle be in control over him and continue to invert reality.
Or he wants to be an actual partner to Belle, you know, like a normal human being who doesn't feel so insecure that they need to put themselves over their partner in order to feel like they have any stability or control over their life.
Than have her be with another man. This is different than Gaston.
Simple Cat Girl says, you know, even if the Chuds ever get their fast dreams to come true and John got married to fulfill his desires, would they even be happy, or would they chase an imaginary danger to fill the void of being unhappy? John wouldn't be happy. I don't think John's capable of being fundamentally happy because he is a person who doesn't feel empathy for others. I think empathy is very important to a feeling of, I don't know, connection to the world. I feel like people like John always, no matter what, feel this level of separation between themselves and other people. I think that's why John finds it easy to put himself so far above other people, especially people who are different than him, you know, women, minorities, etc. I think that's how a lot of people fall into fascism, at least at this level. I mean, there are other ways people do. They're not all narcissists or people who have empathy problems, but those people are often exacerbated by people like John who do have empathy deficits and take it out on others. It's really sad. I feel like even though John's a terrible person and I think he's a danger and therefore, you know, I'm not trying to change him. There's nothing that would ever happen that would change John. But it is a fundamentally depressing way to live. John Doyle does not care about other people. He cares about what he views the world to be in a natural state, and that he thinks that he should do anything, whether it's lie, whether it's do whatever, in order to get the world to that state. Because on some level, I think he thinks it would make him happy, but it wouldn't, because he still wouldn't relate to other people. He still wouldn't have connections to people different than him. He wouldn't feel like a human being. He would just be a human being in a world that caters to him and his whims, which would be better for him, I guess, in a selfish way, but it wouldn't make him ultimately happy. Zero V Streaming says, be our guest, let me motorboat that chest. Thanks for the bits.
Who asserts himself from a place of objective value and confidence. The Beast asserts himself from a place of insecurity. Gaston being with Belle would make both of them happiest, but the Beast being with Belle...
Salion the Forbidden One says, so Gaston is good for forcing a clockwork making grandfather to be put in an asylum so that he can reject industrialism, and his raw sexual bravado makes him good, while the Beast is bestiality loving beta, and somehow women want chaos and control, and this is bad because women don't love order. I feel like this is bad. Reject modernity, Gaston, or furry fun Beast. Pick one. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense that he says women are the epitome of control, or epitome of chaos, but also they want to subvert reality by being in control of men, which isn't true anyway, but control is kind of the antithesis of chaos. Yeah, the Jordan Petersonian, like, bullshit doesn't make sense on any level if you actually think about it for 5 seconds.
Would just make the Beast happiest, or at least less miserable, which is why he was literally willing to let Gaston kill him about 2 minutes prior to this. This is the difference between confident, capable love, and weak, insecure love. The Beast let Belle go because he just wanted her to be happy or whatever. Gaston...
And he got the girl, so how'd that go?
Says, no, I can make her the happiest and provide to her the best life, and I will stop at nothing to do this for her. But the Beast is incapable of this because he acts exclusively through insecurity. And so then the Beast lashes out and almost kills Gaston out of insecurity, not out of Belle's best interest. And this really is a Cain and Abel situation. So Gaston, who's not prideful like Belle, who's not insecure like the Beast, he humbles himself and asks the Beast for mercy. He's a leader above all else, and he knows at this point the only way to save the objective and
John, do you believe Gaston would give Beast mercy? Just curious. Also, I believe the Beast does, and then Gaston immediately tries to kill the Beast and inadvertently kills himself. Because Gaston, again, is objectively the villain.
Stay in the fight.
Simple Cat Girl says, John, don't you even dare to act like you know anything about love. I know, right? I don't even think his parents loved him, based on how he acts. I don't know how this comes out of a loving household.
Is to ask for mercy. So the Beast lets him go, and then gets distracted by Belle, and so Gaston capitalizes on this, and he stabs the Beast.
Again, making Gaston the fucking bad guy.
But because of the rain, he loses his footing and tragically falls to his death. Now,
yes, I'm sure tragic is what Disney was going for there.
this is where the story actually ends. Everything else is basically just a humiliation ritual and feminist propaganda, because Gaston understood that the Beast in his animal form was pathetic and that he couldn't properly love Belle because he was a weak man. And so
no. Beast has self-awareness. Beast has the capability for growth. Beast has empathy and love and understanding and respect. Things that Gaston are completely incapable of providing to a partner. Fuck him. Meek says, does John even like women? The way he talks about them doesn't even suggest he's attracted to them in any way. No. I do not believe he is hetero-romantic. He's probably heterosexual. I do not believe he is hetero-romantic. I do not believe John is capable of actually loving a woman because he fundamentally does not respect or understand women as human beings.
So he sought to put him out of his misery and do the job that he was incapable of doing. And still, the Beast didn't even defeat Gaston. At no point did he best Gaston in any capacity. He literally won via technicality. But now he's still dying.
He died because he was an asshole, John. That's the message.
But he says, well, maybe it's better.
A similar thing happens to Clayton in Tarzan. He ends up accidentally hanging himself by the neck because he, similarly angrily tries to hurt others, but ends up killing himself.
This way, because he's realizing that he just killed Gaston over a literal woman and his own insecurity, and that if he just stays with Belle now, more destruction is the inevitable result. He realizes that Belle inadvertently killed the most beloved man in the whole village,
who was an asshole. I think the village is probably better off.
And now Belle, trying to maintain her control over the Beast, commands him, no, don't talk like that. So then Belle says that she loves him, the curse breaks, and now the prince is back through this shape-shifting ritual, and guess what? He is significantly less handsome than Gaston. Now,
I don't think I agree. Even if we're just talking physically. But even if we go beyond physically, no, he's not, because Gaston is a fucking asshole. Gaston is a monster. The Beast is like... Does John think that the only thing that makes someone attractive is their physical looks, and it has nothing to do with who they are as a person? Because again, this ties into my belief that he is not hetero-romantic. He doesn't find attraction in women for who they are, or anything about their personality other than being subservient to his will. He cares about physicality. He's heterosexual. I don't believe he's hetero-romantic.
Now they're getting married, and it's like, who are all these people at the wedding? Where did they come from? I don't know. There were a lot of other questions left to be answered. Does LeFou avenge Gaston's death? How long did it end up taking for Maurice to die? Would Belle and Gaston's children have recognized the state of Israel? I don't know. But the true moral of the story...
That made me unironically laugh.
...is that the nature of nature is right. What is natural is therefore right. Inversion of the natural order is inherently chaotic and therefore destructive, and man must be above woman to prevent or at least minimize that, generally speaking. And honestly, I think Gaston just got unlucky. I don't really think there was anything else he could have done. You could say that he should...
He could have not been a narcissistic psychopath who tried to destroy multiple lives in order to get his dick wet. That probably would have been a better decision than what he did, which, got him killed. MH Darkbeast says, talk about a serious downgrade, though. He's just a cheap reanimation of Tarzan. He was far sexier as the Beast. Tarzan came out later. So, if anything, Tarzan is a ripoff of the Beast design.
Should have just shot the Beast with more arrows and finished him off. But it's like, Gaston he just really had this understanding of honor and chivalry that we just can't comprehend, so...
Honor and chivalry. Again... He tried to make Belle an unwilling sex slave, tried to get an innocent man committed, gaslit an entire town, murdered a guy for what he looked like, and John considers these things chivalrous. I don't think he knows what chivalry means. Hydrate. And he attacked after surrendering, which is, yeah, basically the opposite of chivalry.
He's a hero. He died doing what was right, and we honor his sacrifice by upholding the principles of Neo-Gastonism in our everyday lives. So check out the Neo-Gastonist shirt, check out the new and restocked merch, check out getundertack.com if you want some really solid underwear. They're a good friend of the channel, but other than that, you know, have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year. Hey guys, if you like this video, leave it a thumbs up, leave it a comment, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so that you are notified in the event that I post, which will be happening so much more frequently in 2022. And of course, share the video with a friend. Yeah, thank you for watching. Very epic 20-second intro. You thought you'd get a 2-minute intro? Wait a minute. Outro. That's what I'm looking for. I'm in a little bit of a rush. I have a plane to catch. I'm coming home for Christmas, Mom.
Disney should shut that shit down. No. John has the right to fair use, even if I don't like what he has to say. Don't get me wrong, if YouTube looked at this and thought it was TOS breaking, they could remove it, and I wouldn't feel bad about that. But Disney has no right to take this down. He was making commentary on it, even if it's stupid commentary, that falls under fair use.
And of course, everyone else who would be wanting to see me, but I don't know, that just seemed like the obvious, you know, I'm on TV, hi Mom. Well, this isn't TV. I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next year. May God bless America.
So, that's, John's newest video. That was pretty painful, honestly. RMG says, I like that he failed to mention how Gaston died screaming like a bitch. In fairness, if you didn't scream while you were plummeting to your death, I think something's probably wrong with you. But that's what John Doyle's last video of 2021 is about. So this year he made, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26, 30. He made 30 videos this last year, and he decided to end. This is funny, by the way. If you remember how John started the year, it was a video called The MAGA Hat Stays On. And, oh my god, look at John. He did a whole video that's like 18 minutes long that we've made fun of before. It's actually one of my higher rated or higher viewed videos on my YouTube channel of when we made fun of this after the election, and John was like, the MAGA hat stays on, it never comes off. And then these days, it was funny actually, because at some point, he was still wearing the MAGA hat, and then, let me see, then the MAGA hat went off of his head onto the desk, and then the move happened. And then there's no MAGA hat, not even on the desk. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't deleted that the MAGA hat never comes off video. So John had an interesting year. Since this is his last video of the year, I imagine this is the last time in 2021 I'm going to be covering him. So, I wish John a better 2022. I don't think he's capable of growth or change, much like Gaston. I think that's why he likes him so much. But who knows? The world is a mysterious and wonderful place. Sometimes. I guess we have another year to look forward to of fashy people and all sorts of fun stuff. So. That's John.